Welcome to Interview with an Author. I'm Kurt Ryan, and today I'm interviewing Sue Eller, a local author of Spokane, Washington. She's a huge science fiction and mystery fan, and she also belongs to several local writers groups in the Spokane area. Welcome to our show today, Sue.
Well, thank you, Kurt. It's good to be here.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I've been reading your book. Here's a question a lot of people have in mind about your book. Where did you come with your idea? Where did you come with your idea for your book, the Meadowlark Madness?
Well, the Meadowlark Madness, of course, was the first in the series, and I was driving down in the farming country, and I heard a meadowlark song, which I'd heard many times before, but never ever saw an actual bird. And so I thought, what if there really wasn't one? And what if just when you drive by, it triggered a sensor and it played that song instead? And so that kind of was the beginning of the idea for this book.
Oh, wow. Well, can you give us some insight into your main character's personality? And her name is Emily Trace?
That's correct.
Emily Trace, okay.
I named her that just because I like the name Emily. I figured Trace was a good name for a detective. And I wanted her initials to be E.T. So when she names her detective agency, E.T. Investigations, people think she investigates aliens.
That would make sense. Well, what inspired you to write this book in the first place?
I wanted to have some fun with my writing. I wrote a serious one quite a few years ago. And then I've written a lot of newspaper articles and things like that. So they were all too serious for me. I wanted to have some fun.
Well, cool.
Yeah.
Well, can you tell us a little bit more about your series? I read your first book, Meadowlark Madness, and you've already finished the second in the series, Taming of the T-Bird.
That's correct.
Now you're working on a third book.
Yes.
So yeah, tell us about the series and how it's developing.
It is developing. I've left the readers hanging on a couple of the mysteries within the mysteries, and got to expand on the characters, which is really fun. And this third one that I'm working on right now, I'm calling it Send in the Drones, and it's going to have some of the newer technology that has come out, and with a sci-fi twist. Got to have that sci-fi in there.
Yeah, well, that's cool. Well, have you written any other books in your past that are not part of the series?
Yes, Return from Armageddon, a shorter, not really a novel, novella they call them. And then it was a little more serious vein. But it was fun too. I enjoyed writing. I've always enjoyed writing.
Yeah.
And I've written for, I haven't written any more books besides these ones, except a cookbook.
Oh, in fact, I think you have it right here.
Yes.
The Gluten-Free Gourmand. It's cooking for a little cookbook by Sue Eller. Actually, I have a copy of this book. It's got a lot of neat little recipes in it. I especially like the banana bread.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And back to your Return from Armageddon, you have that here too, don't you?
Yes.
I read this when I was on a flight down to Florida and actually made a really nice short read, and I was actually very engrossed in that one. Really like that. So Sue, have you done any other types of professional writing, and if so, what?
I have written for newspaper articles, and I've done some sports writing.
Okay.
And I've done a lot of editing and proofreading and that kind of thing too. So, and I've written term papers and all that in school.
Sure.
And essays and everything.
So you learned a lot in high school too. Well,
High school and college, yeah.
Well, I guess that kind of brings us in. Other question I had was, do you have any formal training, any college or trade school or internships that you've done?
Actually, my training was not in writing per se in college and that. I was a chemistry major in college. But I did do a lot of internship work when I worked for this little weekly newspaper, and I learned a lot there too. So, yeah.
Well, cool. Well, I guess what genre are your books so far? What seems to be the genre you'd like
They're
to pursue?
actually a hybrid
Okay.
They're a mystery, but they're also heavy on the science fiction.
Mm.
So, and they've got quite a bit of humor in them.
Mhm.
So it's kind of a amalgam, to use a chemical technical term, you know.
Very nerdy of you. I was
Yeah.
going to say, you got a little thing on the back of the book that kind of is a great teaser for your Meadowlark Madness. It says, opening her own detective agency, Emily, E.T. Investigations, seems like a good way to look for clues into how her husband got murdered. I don't even know if we touched bases on this earlier, but that's what caused her to open this up. Her husband was murdered. No one could figure out what happened. So she figured, I'm tired of waiting around and I need to start making some money. I think I'm going to go into private investigating. So
That's correct.
she opens up her own thing. She doesn't want to advertise who she is as far as being a lady, or maybe her name's been in the news, so she uses her initials, E.T., for Emily Trace.
Mhm.
So anyway, it says she thinks it's a great idea. It says on the book, that is, until her first client shows up with a mistaken impression that E.T. stands for extraterrestrial instead of Emily Trace. He hires her to look into an alien abduction case involving a species of bird, a meadowlark no less. And before she can say UFO, she's embroiled in a case that will change her life forever. So that's very intriguing. So I'm kind of curious, so tell me about this guy who she's meeting, this guy, her first client.
Her first client.
Yeah, who is this guy?
His name is Archibald Wren.
Okay.
His name kind of fits him because he's mostly bald,
Mhm.
and he likes to be called Archie, so he's Bald Archie.
Right.
And he has a pot belly and skinny legs, so he kind of resembles a bird,
Oh, like a
like
wren?
a wren.
Oh
Mhm.
my gosh, that's pretty creative. That's
Thank
funny.
you. That's part of my quirky sense of humor,
Yes.
I guess.
So you got to, like, certain readers who know some of these little inside things, that will get the inside jokes to your names and the things you're doing in here. Let's move on to the everyday life of a writer. They tell budding musicians, comics, actors that don't quit your day job. I myself have been told not to quit my day job because I like to sing sometimes. I just tell them, like, well, of course I'd never quit, because then you wouldn't be able to hear me every day. I wouldn't do that to you people. So have you ever had people kind of tell you not to quit your day job, and what is it like, the life as a budding author? The everyday
Well,
life.
Since I don't have a job anymore,
Mm-hmm.
because I don't have to,
Mm-hmm.
I just really enjoy writing, and so I don't have to worry about it. I know a lot of authors that do that in their off time
Mm-hmm.
without, they still have a job. And then there's people like Stephen King that just write. They don't care about the money because they're making lots of money with their writing.
Mhm.
So you've got a lot of different perspectives. For me, it's kind of a hobby, but it would really be nice to have a lot of people read my books.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of
So that's kind of what motivates you to write. You do it more
Right.
for the
for the
enjoyment of writing.
audience, yeah, for sharing things about me, about how I see the world, and
Mhm.
and
I imagine there's a lot of gratification.
oh yeah, and getting them to laugh a little bit, or
Right. Yeah, so probably for you and maybe lots of people, it's probably not about the money, it's more about the sharing something and seeing how many people can enjoy it. And it's certainly gratifying if someone actually wants to pay money to read what you're doing,
Yes.
So do you write full-time or part-time?
Oh, part-time.
Okay.
I take a little time. I try to take a little time each day at the same time. It doesn't always work.
Okay, yeah, because I was going to ask if you write every day or,
Yeah, try to.
do you have like
Even if it's a sentence.
Oh, sure.
I try to write something every day.
Yeah, you probably, I imagine, do you have ideas that pop in your head and you write down notes?
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. I even have a notepad by my bed. If I wake up in the night with a kind of a strange idea and I'm afraid I'll forget it,
Mhm.
I write it down.
Do you have, oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
And then if I'm out and about, I have a function on my cell phone, it's called Notepad, and if I get an idea, I just open that up and type it up real quick, just
Yeah.
so I don't forget.
So those are like spontaneous times. Do you
Yeah.
have specific times of the day that you tend to find yourself doing this more? You have like a set time of day that's your most creative time that you set aside to write?
Early in the morning is the best
Okay.
for me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. After I've had about 3 cups of coffee.
You know, that's one thing I noticed about your main character, Emily Trace. She is a coffee addict. Would you say you maybe even modeled some of her personality traits after yourself?
She's quite a bit like me in
Is she?
some ways. Yeah.
That's funny. So do you work to an outline? How do you put your thoughts together and make
Well,
this
I
all
have
come
all
together?
these random thoughts, and then they make me think of other random thoughts. But
Mhm.
what I have done for this book I'm working on
Mhm.
now, and also on the T-Bird,
Mhm.
is I make a storyboard. I just have scraps of paper, and I write down what's going to happen and what day it is, and because that's important in my stories. And the characters that are involved, if I'm introducing a new character or bringing one in from a previous book,
Mhm.
and try to keep it a little bit organized. And I deviate from that sometimes, but at least it gives me a starting point.
Okay.
So,
I think I asked you this or mentioned this earlier. I was going to ask you what you're working on right now. You're working on your third
yeah,
book
third
of the
Emily
series,
Trace, yes.
the one with the sending the drones.
Yes.
So how's that coming along? Are you getting close to finishing it? Or?
Oh, I'm not close to finishing, but I've got the storyboarded. I know how it's going to go. I know
Mhm.
what's going to happen when, pretty much.
Mhm.
And then, so I'm just taking each portion that's a day,
Yeah.
or each chapter, actually, I broke it up into chapters, and I'm working on that chapter. And then if I think it's something that's going to affect chapters that I've already written, I got to go back and change things.
Okay.
But it's a lot of fun.
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
So how much research do you do for your books? I mean, for instance, I've read books or seen movies to where there's some of the stuff in there, it's like totally, did these people even do any research on what they're doing? Do you, I realize science fiction and, novels in general, any fiction that's going to have some elements that are not real.
Right.
But, what kind of research do you do to at least kind of keep your mixture to where we understand it's fantasy, but we want certain things to be like the author knows, things that are fact today, we want to seem like you know what
Yes.
you're talking about.
And I
So-
have a pretty good science background.
Okay.
So, and I'm always seeing things on the internet, things in the newspapers or on TV
Mhm.
that are cutting edge things that are going on in the world today.
Yeah.
I like to keep up with stuff and technology especially. And so I bring some of that knowledge into my books. And if I don't know much about, like I heard about 3D printing, for example,
Mhm.
and I didn't know much about it. So I started doing some research on 3D printing. And I found out all kinds of fascinating things. And so that's going to be in this book. And then the drones.
Uh-huh.
I mean, for a long time, I thought a drone was just this big airplane without a pilot that dropped bombs on places.
Mhm. Oh, yeah.
But I find out there's little itty bitty drones, and there are all kinds of different purposes.
Hmm.
And that's going to play in this book too. And then I have a couple of characters that I've had to research their occupations. Like
Mhm.
there's a mailman in there.
Oh, really?
And so I had to do some research on that. So